Palestine, the Central Committee of the Fatah movement confirmed its categorical rejection of attempts to displace the Palestinian people from their territory. A new caravan of migrants departed from the northern border of Mexico to the United States in search of the so-called American dream. Colombia backs down in its conflict with the United States. Petro's government accepts the terms of deportation of its citizens, while his foreign minister announces upcoming meetings in Washington. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine, the Central Committee of the Fatah movement confirmed its categorical rejection of attempts to displace the Palestinian people from their territory. In a statement, they indicated that the decisions to lift sanctions on inhabitant settlers and to approve new shipments of U.S. missiles to the Israeli regime will serve to promote the conflict rather than extinguish it. Likewise, it reiterated that any position must strengthen efforts to end the conflict, while stressing that Palestine belongs to the Palestinians and their lands will not be handed over. Despite the agreement between the Palestinian Resistance Movement, Hamas, and the Israeli regime, the Zionist occupation forces continue to occupy areas of the Gaza Strip and prevent the return of the people of Gaza to their land. In Palestine, thousands of displaced people began to return to their homes in the north of the devastated Gaza Strip after Israel opened the Netzarim corridor. Most of the displaced people returned on foot through Al-Rashid, a street of at least 7 kilometers that stretches from the south to the north of the Strip and that has witnessed dozens of massacres during the 470 days of the conflict. The ceasefire agreement between Hamas Resistance Movement and Israel came into force on January 19th, establishes that the Gazans will be able to cross the Netzarim corridor to return to the north of the Palestinian enclave from Sunday. As of October 7, 2023, the Zionist forces of Israel caused the displacement of more than 85% of citizens of Gaza in the midst of a massive and unprecedented destruction of infrastructure and property of citizens. And thousands of people are still waiting on Saladino Street to gain access to the northern Gaza Strip and return to their homes.
We are sitting here until they open the road for us and we return to our homes. Children slept in the cold. We dismantled the wood from the tent and lit a fire with it to warm ourselves. We were waiting for this moment for Gaza and to go back to it. Last night was very tough. The cold was very intense. We are waiting here until they open the road. We return to our homes in the north of the Strip. I am from the Al-Shadi camp. Of course we hope to return to our homes. I have been displaced for 1 year and 3 months. We visited all the places during the period of displacement. When we heard the news that the army would not allow us to return to Gaza, we felt very sad and we hope in God that we will return to Gaza. It was a very difficult night. We were freezing cold.
My joy when I heard the news of my return to Gaza was indescribable. We want to show the enemy that we are firm and, God willing, we will be victorious. We have been here since last night and we have been in the south for 1.5 years.
In Jordan, the foreign ministry reaffirmed its rejection of the forced displacement of Palestinians after Trump proposed to relocate them to his country and Egypt. Foreign Minister of Jordan, Ayman Safadi, said that the refusal to transfer the Palestinian people is firm and that it will not change. He also assured that they will work with all partners in the region to take clear steps towards the achievement of peace. It's not the first time that Trump and his team have proposed to another country to relocate Palestinian people, especially Gazans. In Lebanon, the Prime Minister Najib Mikati confirmed that the extension of the ceasefire agreement will continue until February 18th. The negotiating committee will continue to monitor the implementation of all points of the ceasefire agreement and the implementation of Resolution 1701, which provides for an end to the Israeli-Lebanese conflict. Should be noted that at the request of the Arab government, the United States will begin negotiations for the release of detainees captured by the Israeli occupation after October 7th. It's important to mention that upon the expiration of the previous ceasefire, Israeli forces opened fire in the south of the country against demonstrators demanding their withdrawal as part of the agreement, killing at least 22 Lebanese and wounding 124 other civilians. We have our first short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Sudan Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan visited the recaptured military headquarters in downtown Khartoum. This was the military leader's first appearance since government forces claimed to have broken a month-long siege by the Rapid Support Forces. Accompanied by senior military commanders, Burhan praised the resilience and sacrifices of soldiers who defend the Army's General Command for 20 months and vowed to eradicate the paramilitary forces. The war, triggered by a power struggle between the Army and the RSF, has killed tens of thousands of people, displaced millions, and plunged the country into a humanitarian crisis. In South Korea, the prosecutor's office decided to input President Jun jail Sunday for the crime of insurrection after his controversial decision to declare martial law on December 3rd. The South Korean prosecution alleged that the former President Jun conspired with former Defense Minister Kim Jong-un and other officials to instigate an uprising by imposing martial law. According to the indictment, the former president also deployed troops to parliament in order to prevent lawmakers from overturning his martial decree. In addition to this crime, the president is accused of planning the arrest of key political figures, including the president of the National Assembly and opposition party leaders, as well as members of the National Election Commission. In southern Chile, at least 2 people died and 7 others are still missing after a boat wrecked in the locality of San Juan de la Costa. According to information provided by the Chilean government, the small boat was carrying 32 people when it sank in the town of San Juan de la Costa in the tourist region of Los Lagos, approximately 1,000 kilometers from Santiago. In addition to the dead and missing, another 14 people are trapped among the rocks in the area and are still waiting to be rescued. Teams from the Chilean Navy, Carabineros, firefighters, and the Emergency Medical Care Service, as well as naval and maritime units and private vessels, are working in search and rescue operations. A new caravan of migrants departed from the northern border of Mexico to the United States in search of the so-called American Dream. Close to 3,000 foreigners left Tapachula, Chiapas, after President Trump canceled the CBP-1 application last Monday. The migrants seek to move forward in the hope of being allowed to cross into the United States, and in case they cannot cross, they want to reach Mexico City or Monterrey to look for jobs. With only a week as head of state, Donald Trump ordered several measures against illegal migration, among them deportations, while Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum opened the possibility of regularizing foreign migrants or repatriating them. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. The government of Colombia, through its foreign ministry, informed on Sunday that the tense situation created with the United States after the South American nation's inadmissibility of 2 military flights with migrants has been overcome. The Colombian government accepted the conditions set by the White House for the deportations. According to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Luis Gilberto Murillo, he and the ambassador in the United States, Daniel Garcia Peña, will travel in the next hours to Washington to hold high-level meetings that will follow up on the agreements resulting from the joint work and exchange of diplomatic notes that took place on Sunday between the two governments. Murillo stated that Colombia will continue to receive those who return as deportees, guaranteeing them dignified conditions as citizens with rights.
Comunicado oficial. El gobierno de Colombia informa que hemos superado el impasse con el gobierno de los Estados Unidos. En este contexto,
the government of Colombia informs that we have overcome the impasse with the government of the United States. In this context, the Foreign Minister, Luis Gilberto Murillo, and Ambassador Daniel Garcia Peña will travel to Washington in the next few days to hold high-level meetings to follow up on the agreements resulting from the joint work that led to the exchange of diplomatic notes between the two governments. We will continue to receive the Colombian men and women who return as deportees, guaranteeing them dignified conditions as citizens with rights. The government of Colombia, under the directive of President Gustavo Petro, has arranged for the presidential plane to facilitate the return of the Colombian nationals who were to arrive in the country today in the morning, hours on deportation flight. Colombia ratifies that diplomatic channels of dialogue will be maintained to guarantee the rights, national interests, and dignity of our citizens.
In this regard, the White House issued a statement notifying that the government of Colombia has accepted the terms and conditions of the U.S. President Donald Trump. The government of Colombia has agreed to all of President Trump's terms, including the unrestricted acceptance of all illegal immigrants from Colombia returned from the United States, including on U.S. military aircraft, without limitation or delay. The document also emphasized that based on this agreement, the tariffs and sanctions fully drafted under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act will be held in reserve and will not be signed unless Colombia does not comply with this agreement. They also maintain that the visa sanctions issued by the State Department and the enhanced customs and borders protection inspections will remain in effect until the first plane carrying Colombian deportees is successfully returned. They conclude with the following statement: today's events make it clear to the world that the United States is respected again. During the first hours of January 26, President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, informed in social media X that he disallowed the entry into the country of two military aircraft that were transporting nationals with an irregular situation in North American territory. Subsequently, President Donald Trump assured that in retaliation he would impose heavy tariffs on imports of Colombian products and visa sanctions. Colombia then requested an extraordinary summit of the community of Latin American and Caribbean states to discuss the tense situation created by the massive deportations of Latin American migrants. In this context, the President of Honduras, Xiomara Castro, in her capacity as President pro tempore of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, convened a meeting of presidents and heads of state scheduled for January 30th to discuss migration, the environment, and Latin American and Caribbean unity. Through a statement, the President of CELAC stated, the pro tempore presidency of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, currently held by the Republic of Honduras, presents its compliments to all the national coordinating bodies of CELAC member states and informs that President Xiomara Castro is urgently convening an extraordinary meeting of presidents and heads of states of CELAC for next Thursday, January 30th, 2025, 11 a.m. local time, Honduras. The document also underlined in this regard, it is notified that this meeting has been scheduled in hybrid format. It should also be noted that His Excellency Mr. Gustavo Petro Rego, President of the Republic of Colombia, incoming President pro tempore of CELAC, has confirmed his participation in person in Tegucigalpa. And in Honduras, hundreds of sympathizers gathered at the Concert Voices against the coup d'etat to celebrate 3 years of Xiomara Castro's government.
It
is an emblematic day because tomorrow President Xiomara Castro celebrates 3 years of being in government to dismantle centuries of injustice and to achieve a new political process of the democratic process in the country. I personally had the opportunity to be part of that great concert Voices Against the Coup, and we are very happy because, 15 years later, we are here in this great celebration with the conviction to continue fighting for our country and the refoundation of our country.
3 years after the first government of President Xiomara Castro, which has also been a progressive government that has responded to the majorities, that has promoted above all social projects for the human development of our population, this represents a great achievement. We have 3 years and now we are moving towards the next government that will continue the refoundation.
In Cuba, the 40th edition of the Jazz Plaza International Festival began on Sunday in Santa Clara City with the presence of musicians from 6 countries of America and Europe. The show, the Corona La Tuventuitis, and the presentation of the Pedrito Martinez Group, a Cuban group based in New York, whose merits include a nomination for the Latin Grammy Awards, were part of the performances of the inaugural day. Jazz Plaza is scheduled from January 26 to February 2nd and will be held for the first time in the central province of Villa Clara, joining Havana and Santiago de Cuba as main venues. The festival brings together 150 groups of the genre and aims to hold nearly 200 concerts and is considered one of the most important cultural events in Cuba. We have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. And in the last minutes, we led you with music as a way to express the rejection of Trump's policy against the immigration population. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.